All right, everyone, good morning and welcome to our webinar today, which is the 2020 Year in Review and Community Town Hall. 2020, yeah, man, that was kind of weird, and yeah, I'm proud to say that there's some stuff about it that went well. So, licking our wounds as we may have to do, but just looking ahead and looking back at some good stuff happened. So to really kick that off, I wanted to start with the highlights of what got added in 2020. The biggest one, of course, was version 4. Is the old-fangled version 3 style, which to my eyes now looks a bit gray and drab, versus the new, clean, crisp, bright version 4. I love it, and I hope you guys do too. In fact, actually, before I go too much more into the details of all the new highlights, what I want you to listen for is not only like a cool retrospective, like, hey, look at how far we've come and look at what kind of cool things we've done. Continues to be my pleasure to keep making improvements to this system in service of you guys all having a better platform. But also you might look out for some things you might have missed, because there were a lot of little things, and some of them were subtle enough that they didn't merit its own little blog post or announcement or anything like that, but they could be useful all the same. So without further ado, we got, of course, the biggest and best, which is probably something you didn't miss, version 4. If you're still on version 3, you might want to toggle the switch. You just have to go to your user account menu at the top, and there's a little version 4 switch, and with just a few clicks, you'll be into the new, which has some nice things. Not just the aesthetics, but we also changed it up so that Team Edition is now available at the same old Basic Edition pricing, which is a very popular feature, as one might expect from a price drop without any caveats or trade-offs. And also a little bit of UI candy, where by toggling this little folder icon, you can go into folder tree view and see something like this, which is really nice for managing large collections of items like files, templates, that sort of thing. In addition to version 4, we launched companies this year, which is a nice way to sort of organize and separate your clients by the companies that you're working for. If you're actually engaging with clients or with companies that are hiring you to work with their people, their employees, this is a wonderful way to keep that all together. You can add and invite an entirely new type of user to the system, which is company personnel. And those allow you to give fine-grained control over what they can and can't see, giving you the opportunity to give the people who care, the stakeholders who hired you, who may not be the people you're actually coaching, a real live window into what you're doing, so they can actually see the results and get a real good sense for, like, yes, this is the real deal and we love it, we're getting our money's worth. Companies also included a bunch of sort of variants on other items in CoachAccountable that are, extend to the level of companies. There's company invoicing now, there's company groups, there's company happenings reports. Probably as time goes on, we'll add a few more things like company engagements and company agreements. It's still a relatively new feature, but as you guys keep using it and weighing in with your feedback, it's really been great to know what would be useful to serve this whole thing of making things happen with companies. We've also done a bunch of things with having better appointment scheduling. Probably the first and foremost biggest one was a full sync with Apple iCal, which now completes the holy trinity of Google, Outlook, and iCal, so everyone can pretty much sync their calendar. We've got a couple other things that are just nice to have more fine-grained control over configuration. You've got better appointment invoicing. The biggest one here was adding PayPal for online payments, but a couple other things that are nice, multiple currency support if you happen to work with folks from different countries. Now, better engagements, a couple of improvements to this. You can now have invoice payments that increase the allocation, which is perfect for subscription-based things and being able to up one's appointments that they can have with you, or reset the clock, or allow rollover. Client visible engagements, if you want, they can have a window into the actual engagements themselves instead of for your own records. A current engagements report that gives you a whole at a glance of where all your people are with their engagements, and some new types of notifications, that ones that are time-based, i.e. on day 7, send one, or appointment nudges, i.e. hey, it's been 20 days or 5 days or 7 days since our last appointment, and there's nothing new on the books. Send an email to notify either coach or client. Got some things with better offerings this year. We got offerings collections, which is in-app, which is a wonderful way for you to have your existing clients be able to peruse the sort of marketplace of what other things are on offer, and in self-service fashion, get into other programs and offerings that you have. Some creative coaches have made this a nice way, elegant way for people to be able to purchase single appointments on demand when it's not really above and beyond included with their existing relationship with you. So that does make easy purchase for established clients. Those clients who are already logged in can use their cards on file, truly put them in one click away from, or just a few clicks away from engaging with you further. And some multi-coach availability for offering appointments. If you're a team of coaches, you can have sort of the intake thing, and your whole team can basically have their availability factored into the what time options are offered to those new prospects coming in. Got better resource packages. This is a feature that you might have missed, but it's just kind of tucked away. If you've ever clicked on the settings menu, the settings gear menu in the top right, and seen the resource packages area, you can now peruse from a collection of some of the standard templates that we have on offer, and sort of get some ideas and inspiration as great starting points. You can preview those package content down and sort of see what you want to install. You can do partial installs, just choose what you want, pick them on, and it's easy to uninstall things. So it makes it a really nice, lightweight way to sort of explore what sort of templates and ideas are out there to sort of use, again, as a starting point for your own thing, and that springboard into you doing better work and having better systems and structures and content that helps you folks. Added a number of conveniences. I'm not even going to read all these, but there's just sort of a nice little bits of sugar that just make using the system that much more smooth and elegant and intuitive, or unlocks just a little bit of functionality. There's also a ton in miscellaneous, where again, none of these features are terribly big deals, but taken together, they just represent a whole knowledge that I'm really proud of, that makes the system just incrementally better for everyone in just those little ways when you need it. And so, yeah, in summary, it continues to be our pleasure to make CA an even nicer, an ever nicer and more powerful platform as we go, and we're going to continue doing that. So thanks for speaking up for all the insight of what would be nice, what would be useful. It is that very insight, that perspective of literally now hundreds of coaches and counting that are informing our day-to-day evolution of this platform to make it better of service to you guys. And in that spirit, I declare the community town hall Q&A, and my thanks in advance to everyone who did weigh in with and heeded my call with questions and things to talk about that's on their mind about what we should discuss here in our town hall. Again, feel free to chime in on a particular subject that is of interest to you, but without further ado, I'm going to just kind of read some of the letters that came in and riff on them accordingly. So first off, we got from TS, I would love to know why calendar invites can't be sent out. The subscribe to calendar thing just doesn't work for me. And then in similar fashion, DB said, what are the odds of adding a calendar invite into the appointment confirmation? I now do the calendar sync as part of the first call. Excellent, that's great, that's what we advise. It's an extra step, assuming they load it into their calendar and remember to attend the first call. Okay, very good. So why can't they, and what are the odds of adding that? Well, yes, it turns out actually CoachAccountable does have support for attaching those ICF files. They can be sent out and pretty good odds, but there are caveats. The reason why I don't have this exposed as a first class feature that you guys can turn on for yourself is that these are not, one, they're a far cry from, again, what we really recommend, which is do the full on calendar sync. That way it's a one and done setup and it just works. ICF attachments to emails have the, sort of the downside of when you first get one from a sender who's not sent it to you, you have to manually click, which again puts some guesswork and friction on the thing for that to do these point about that first call. But even more critically, or kind of sinisterly, some, maybe most, email clients do not respect updates to those attachments. So if someone were to get an attachment and add to the calendar via the ICS add to or attach mechanism, that goes into the calendar and that's great. But if that appointment is canceled later, CoachAccountable will send an updated ICS which says this is now canceled. And for some email clients, I'm looking at you, Gmail, and others that I've tested loosely, it doesn't disappear. And that's terrible because that's noise in the signal that makes the solution, which is a cure to the I don't want to do the calendar sync, worse than the disease of I have to do the calendar sync. Similarly, updates. If you change an appointment from Tuesday to next Thursday, CoachAccountable will dutifully send out that ICS. It's all right there with the update, and it even says this is supposed to be this thing and do an update operation. Doesn't always reflect, and that makes me real hesitant to make this a feature that is exposed to everyone because, quite frankly, me and the rest of the CoachAccountable staff, man, just me, we don't like technical support issues coming up. Insinuations that, hey, CoachAccountable is buggy, what's going on, it's not working. I just can't be bothered. We want to minimize that noise on the signal, that confusion, those opportunities for the experience of like, hey, why isn't this working right? So we can turn it on for you if you're really in a place where it won't work for you, like TS said. If you're working with folks in a company where calendar sync is out of the question and we got to go be more old fashioned, we'll do that. Let us know. But for now, where I stand on this is real reticent to make that a first class feature that people can opt in because of those downsides that are much more frustrating than having to do the calendar sync. There's one thing that is a mitigation to what DB says here about that first appointment call, the extra step to load it into their calendar. You can get basically the same thing that also entails that click, because again, it's a first time thing and most clients will not auto load those first time thing. And that is that when you're configuring your offerings confirmation message, there's a little magic tag that is easy to miss, which is the appointment add to calendar buttons. And by adding that magic tag, those little add to calendar buttons go right in, which again puts them one click away from adding that to their calendar, which then gets you basically to where DB wants to be about having people who are booking for the first time actually have it in their calendar and hedge more that they will show up and remember all that good stuff. So that's there, a nice little feature that again takes the edge off that need for attaching those ICS calendar invite files. So kind of in that spirit of that little magic tag that's easy to miss, I want to now sort of do a segment that I call Good Features Gone Missing, because sometimes reaching out to express the desire or frustration is all it takes. Coach Accountable might already do what you're looking for. And so updated for 2020, here's some more instances of that happening. VL writes, thanks, John. You may or may not have those features. These features: 1, a landing page with a sign up link and a way to pay. 2, a plugin to link Coach Accountable page with WordPress website or to embed it. 3, a way to link sales stores with Coach Accountable so we can sell Coach Accountable coaching from our stores. So glad she wrote, so glad I put out this APB to sort of chime in with whatever's on your mind, because the answers are pretty much offerings, and offerings. This kind of really dovetails into a topic that's near and dear to my heart in terms of wanting to solve it, engineeringly speaking, that I still struggle with, which is, it breaks my heart that folks wish Coach Accountable did things that Coach Accountable already does. So there's an awareness issue, there's a marketing issue of users to try and entice them to do the exploration of what all that Coach Accountable can do in order to find what they're truly looking for because it's already there. We do our best, we'll continue to do our best, and that's why I love that we're having a town hall like this to sort of have this sort of exchange to put things on radar that otherwise might have gone missing. In a similar fashion, is there a way to produce a document/report to use for a client showing all of their pending action items? Something to put in front of them that they could just see and speak to. Print screens just don't do it. JR, I'm so glad you asked, because again, naturally the document/report is what it is to go to some client's actions tab and look in the current actions and see, here's the listing, chronological by due date, most immediately needed things first. But he wants to be able to print something out. And indeed, when you do the browser's Control P for print, it doesn't work well because of the whole responsive layout and the cascading tiles and side menus. It doesn't look good. But I'm so glad you asked, JR, because there is a way. Alt-Shift-P. It's a little keyboard shortcut that you can do, and you can, with it, get a print-ready version of pretty much whatever you're looking at almost anywhere. If you're looking at a particular worksheet template, yes. If you're looking at someone's metrics tab, yes. If you're looking at a card-based listing of worksheets and agreements, no, because that would be a mess. You wouldn't want to print all those out. But if you click on one and bring it up, Alt-Shift-P, and you get it all there. All right, so next one, 4 bits of feedback and recommendations for enhancing CA. By the way, I appreciate you asking for this feedback from your clients. Thank you for being open to ideas and recommendations. My absolute pleasure. 1, small change. Please add the year to the begin and end dates for the metric tracking graphs. I am a financial coach and track both short and long-term goals. This is a good one. Most times in coaching, the game is sort of nearby in time, and so to reduce clutter of having too many numbers in the formatting of the dates, I omitted that. But it's a good idea to have it if you actually do set something out for goal that ends December 2021, to actually have it append that little 2021, because right now today December 31st would look pretty ambiguously, not sure which it is. So I added that, so that's done. Good one, thanks. Thanks, DW. Number 2, can you add a CC option to all system-generated client emails where the CC is the coach? I question sometimes whether my clients get the appointment confirmations and reminders and such because I'm not CC'd on the system emails to them. I realize I get my own system email reminders, but I like the peace of mind seeing my client in the to and me on the CC. I'm really reticent to do that because if I'm doing things right with CoachAccountable, it's a reliable system and you can trust it. Now, as I said back, I've got 8 years of experience of knowing it to be a reliable, workable system, but he's been only around for a month, so I get that he doesn't quite know that. So my request is, for that one, you can actually trust it, because what will probably happen if I allowed that feature, it would become noise on the signal. It would become too much clutter in an already cluttered inbox, which is the last thing I want CoachAccountable to do for anyone, where you have to filter it out. So hopefully the desire for that feature will wane as time goes on, because as trust builds, that yes, they do get them just as you said, and have that awareness that it's going to be okay. Number 3, speaking of emails, some systems I have used allow for handling of client email responses to the system-generated emails they receive. If a client has a question or a response for the coach from a system email, the system seems only to handle very generic responses. And I think what he's talking about here is where you can reply to a action notification, and the system expects you to say done and maybe add a comment and maybe add the time that it was done, or cancel and then maybe a comment and time it was canceled. There are certain really nice functionalities that are allowed in terms of CoachAccountable's interpretation of reply emails to certain system emails. You can also mark an action or track your metric data for the day, or cancel an appointment. And I want to, my thought on this is that these are very deliberate carve-outs from more general purpose replyability functionality. Other system emails that don't have that very nuanced handling for specific functionality actually do work as he's asking for, where it just goes routed through CoachAccountable, possibly posted as a comment or a new message, and forwarded on to the coach to have that sort of dialogue back and forth. But yeah, it's a trade-off, and the reduction of friction in what it is to participate that is afforded by this nice functionality from your own inbox is, generally speaking, a really worthwhile trade to have the convenience of emailing back and forth in all those ways. Number 4, have you ever considered any sort of workflow solution for handling conversion of a prospect to a client? Specifically, my need is a single tool to take a payment from a prospect and make them a client. They have to make their first payment as the first step to become a client. Well, of course, the good news to that one is, if you guys remember a couple of slides ago, the answer to that is offerings. And indeed, this is another instance of no playing with offerings yet. So glad you asked, because great news, offerings has all this handled before. All right, next one. I have just a few things listed below I am suggesting as improvements going forward. 1, all reports need to have a company sort. Really helpful for tracking use as a company. I agree. Companies is fairly new, and I could see putting filter by company in terms of the scope of the clients and all that, and then sort, so you can kind of see at a glance. I'm down. Companies, as you guys know, fairly new. As the use cases start to really percolate and the pain points and the shortcomings become evident, I'll be adding those, and that's a great one. Number 2, all the login links automatically insert the portal name we assign. System automatically names the name part to any login link. Helps us keeping brand. I think what this is asking for is system automatically assigns is not a description of what is currently so, but that's what it should be. And I disagree with that, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to click a link that just says whatever you've named your system. But the fact remains that you can put the little colon syntax in a magic tag to set the actual text, whatever you want. You can spend 10 minutes and go through all the email templates you have to weave that in terms of what really does make sense based on context. And then if you're on Team Edition, there are groovy new controls, one of the things that we did add as a convenience this year, to clone a given email template to all of the coaches on the team so that it becomes the default. So you don't have to go through 10 templates times 12 clients, or 12 coaches on your team, meaning 120 updates. 10 and then clone them out and you're done. So that's a way that you can weave it already to get basically that. And then CT. And then number 3, would be nice with offerings. Offerings, if user could choose a coach and appointment type in offering. This way I do not have to send/display multiple offering links. Maybe there's a method to this, and I just do not know how. again, so glad you asked. The method for this is offering collections. Offering collections allows you to sort of group a collection of offerings together, and then you can kind of put the parameters of like what they're choosing from that groovy all-in-one listing menu, and therefore they can choose it there. Trying to weave those degrees of freedom into the offering itself would add probably an inordinate amount of complexity in terms of configuration and getting it right in a way that I don't really want to add, because offerings are a big enough and flexible enough thing as it is. Bundling them together in a single collection, though, is the way to go for that, to let people truly choose. And therefore, you spread only one link around, like, hey, click this link to book whatever, and then from that, they get the menu and can choose accordingly. Okay, JS asks, question, can you create a one-page how to use CoachAccountable document for new clients that gives them a very basic tour of the site and how to navigate it? I'd love to have a basic template that I could then customize. I'd love to, but I can't. The reason for this is there's so much you can turn on or off for the client's experience that if we try to make a one-size-fits-all, that's problematic downstream in that, you know, whatever things we talk about, if you turn those things off, your client might say, hey, this is broken. It doesn't have journal entries, but thing says it has journal entries. Now, I get the desire for a template, but honestly, we can't do much better if it's a one-page document. We can't do much better than you having your own branding and then take a screenshot and then maybe make some annotations on it in terms of what they see, in terms of what things you do have turned on or off in the sort order of the listing and all that good stuff. More to the point of what JS is asking for that is very powerful actually, is to make a little video where you yourself are talking over, you know, a screen capture of you going through your own, say, freebie client's account, branded just the way you want, set up just the way your clients are going to experience it, and your own voice can be overlaying that. Now, not every coach wants to be in the world of video production, but with things like Loom these days, it is dead simple to fire up your browser and hit record and talk into your mic and hit done, and then you have exactly that. We can't do that better than you could. We might make a little how-to guide that unpacks what I just said about how to make that and make it as easy as possible so that all you got to do is do it. But if you do it, you bring the benefit of your own branding, your own voice, your own set of priorities of what you want clients to be focusing on in the system. And that we can't trump, but that's the best way to do it. Okay, so PM on a similar vein asks, by the way, what's the best way to implement and align CoachAccountable with my coaching practice? Is there a succinct list of features or a process you recommend? Again, to this one, no, there's not a succinct list of features. The feature list is huge, and that's a great thing, but where it becomes problematic is that most coaches, especially when they're first in the foothills of how do I implement CoachAccountable and align it with my practice, they only care about maybe half of the features. The problem is navigating which half that is. So we do have a really nice process that we do recommend for exploring the space of all that CoachAccountable can do, and exploring the space of all that, given what CoachAccountable can do, you could kind of weave in and make part of how you work with your people. And that is the webinar series. These lessons are such a good, you know, deep dive into any one of these, what I would call building blocks into a powerful practice in terms of automation of running a better business, sure, but also giving the participation of your clients a certain richness and depth that is more than just the conversations. So peruse the webinar series. They're all in a nice little listing, and each one has a 2-sentence blurb about what you're getting. Find one that's interesting, that could apply, that could be part of what you want to implement to make part of your practice and aligns with how you roll, and give it a watch. All of them are about an hour long, and they'll give you tons of actionable insights. And you don't have to go through the whole thing. Just, give one or two a try, implement and play, and then come back to the buffet whenever you're ready. So that's my advice on that. One thing that would be great would be in the billing of clients to allow for the creation of a drop-down list of services and pricing, including tax, which would save me having to enter it each time. That's JH. That is a cool one because actually, as you guys might know, when you're creating an invoice with its line items, the system will auto-suggest line items that you've entered before. Basically, under the hood, it's like any line item that you've entered twice will be in that auto-suggest thing. Now, what JH is asking for is the price as well. What's funny about this is I made that auto-suggest feature back in CoachAccountable 1.0, like 12 years ago. I haven't touched it since. So Shortly after JH wrote, I was like, wait a second, we can just probably pull the prices and have those fit in too. And so now that is a thing. If you click and the auto suggest will give things in terms of including their price of line items that is seen historically in your invoice creation. And so, yeah, that's now a thing, a nice little improvement to the system that took me 12 minutes. And then 2 days later, JH says, John, you are a bloody legend. That is Australian for way cool. Just sent an invoice and my usual invoice item there with the cost. Perfect. Cool. I love opportunities like that. Those little insights of what I could do to make CoachAccountable just a little bit smarter to save you tons of keystrokes and tons of little hassles and whatnot. So that was a wonderful piece of insight request. Thanks, JH, for that. In a similar vein, JR asked, can I set the default time for a new action item to something besides 7 p.m.? Now, after that whole invoice line item thing, I was feeling plucky. I'm like, maybe you should be able to. But then I thought, sure we can, but sort of. I didn't want to make a new setting that you have to then find and configure as the, what's my default thing? Because JH would know about it because I'd probably tell him, hey, JH, there's a new setting you can do this with. But then everyone else would not know that it's a thing, and it would be lost for most people's benefit. So what I did was I made a quick tweak to the code thing. It took all of 2 lines of code. We basically had the system just remember whatever it was you set for the due time, the last action you created. And that automatically fills in for the next time you create an action, whether it's a different client or a different day, it'll be there. And if you usually have a time that you like, well, that's what's going to fill in mostly because that's what the system remembered from the last one you made. So that was also a great one. Low effort, but high impact and a nice convenience. JR was pretty stoked, similar to JH. All right, next thing, 2 things I'd like. Appointments in its own tab and not under overview. No one ever remembers, and I explain over and over again. All right, I get the frustration. That one I'm still not sold on because as convenient as it might be to help out the folks who still can't get it and need to be explained over and over, that would create some extra clutter for everyone who knows and like me believes it's a nice grouping. It is in the overview tab. It's just a little thing that doesn't have to take up so much real estate. It's its own section. It would undermine that elegance. So here we have, unfortunately, one of those design trade-offs where there's no way to make everyone totally happy because it kind of has to be one or the other. And if you want to say, well, John, you could make it a setting that people could decide whether or not it to be split out into its own tab or not. I say, sure, but now we've made the system that much more complex and fraught with like, did I get it right? Am I setting up right? That again, it carries its own costs. So I stand by the current design decision of having it be tucked away in the overview tab. I sympathize with the frustration, but again, that should be it represents one of those one-time hits called, you only have to get it in your bones. Oh, cool, it's located there one time for an indefinite payoff called the screens are and the menus are simpler and more elegantly arranged forever for everybody. So I'm gonna not change that one, but I'm sympathetic to the request. Second, in-app purchases for additional appointments or products as something they can click on and purchase from inside their account that can have different prices for different people. Now, I read this one originally very quickly, and I thought like, oh yeah, that's offerings collections, the ones you can list in app, as I mentioned earlier. But different prices for different people. Now we're getting fairly deep into the weeds of very subtle variations of business models, and at that level of detail, I'd have to create 100 complex features, every one of which would only be used by only a handful of people. So the answer to that one as a sort of workaround would be create a whiteboard that has links to either individual offerings or offerings collections, and using the clone whiteboard from the client dashboard, nice little tool, there's a little button there, clone this to others. You can selectively share a given whiteboard with certain people and not others. So people on pricing plan A, you share the whiteboard with pricing plan A offering links to them, and people on plan B, the alternate whiteboard with the alternate links with the alternate pricing to the plan B folks. That's the way to do that. It's a bit of a hack. It's not as elegant as the in-app listing of things, but that's not a bad 85% solution. JB, thanks for weighing in there. All right, FL asks, I'd love to have the possibility to limit the type of data clients can enter in a metric. I ran a course with a binary metric, which of course you guys know is a 0 or 1. And then I was busy, very busy, changing a lot of 9s, 8.5s, and 10s, etc. into 1s to fit with the metric type. if I could limit the kind of data or specify a range like in Excel, then I wouldn't want to have to worry about that. I could see that. I haven't heard too much of a problem with this, but there's not too much to being able to set a sort of valid value range on metrics. It's just a matter of motivation, priority, and interest. So if you too suffer from this problem and find that a worthwhile thing, that'll help me know whether I should prioritize this on the order of next week's or the next month's weigh in. I'm not going to jump in on this one because I've in 8 years. This is the first time I've ever heard of it, but it is one of those things where I'm like, when I was first coding metrics years ago, I wonder if anyone's going to ask for that. The answer has been a resounding no until now. So here we are. But an idea is on the table. I'll leave it to the community to sort of let me know how much that is as an attractive as a possibility, especially when judged against all the other possibilities that could be working on. AGS, I would love to have a weekly view rather than a list of appointments. Is that already an option and I just missed it? Kinda, but maybe there's something to this. I say kinda in that it's an option by virtue of a lot of the intention of how we get elegance with all displays of offerings to sort of meet you where you're at in terms of how you'd like to work with your schedule. And that is synchronizing with your calendar. Your calendar system definitely has that weekly view and other ways to sort of slice and dice the views because it's a calendar and that's what calendar, virtual, digital calendars are good for. So my immediate answer is that, well, that's what the calendar sync is for. And then in your calendar of choice, you can see those things. But maybe it would be kind of cool, kind of fun, kind of useful if that offerings listing was broken into sections that are like a little more semantic for top of mind at a glance, needs. Like any offerings that are appearing this week would appear under a little subheader in that listing this week and next week, and then everything else further out. That could be a cool division. Maybe there's something to that. I proposed that to AG. I haven't heard back, but we'll see if that sounds like a cool thing, and maybe we'll do that. All right, a couple things I am wondering about. One, white label app. It would be valuable if there were a downloadable white label app, iOS and Android, for clients. On this one, I emailed back and I said my usual thing of, in many ways, I respectfully disagree because having to make your clients go to the App Store and find something CoachAccountable branded and install it and trust that it's not doing nefarious things and disrespectful to data and worrying about does it compatible with my iOS device and if is it conflicting with something else and do I have the updated version is way worse than our current solution to having an app called just add to home screen and your own little icon of an app appears with your own little system name there. That I think is way slicker than anything we could do in terms of shoving something into the iOS and Android's app stores that people would then have to find and install. So with this one, I sent a link to the blog post, and I want you guys put the link in there, why there is no app in the CoachAccountable app in the App Store and why there probably never will be. And I said, like I said to everyone, if you can think of any other reasons why an app would be good given this alternative route that we have embraced, let me know. I haven't heard anything back, so that might be sort of hopefully because I don't seem like I'm boorish and rude and dismissive of ideas, but I still haven't heard any reasons for this beyond that. So I think the answer, to make a long story short, once you know it's easy to add to home screen and it's your own branded app, most people don't need this. So hopefully you guys will agree. All right, number two, more worksheet templates. It would be great to have more templates that provide a starting point, programs, easy to use tick sheets for clients to track various things. I kind of agree. We have a lot of sample templates. And again, if you peruse the resource packages, you can find some more. That'll show you the sort of ropes of what is possible and how things can be put together using the form-based controls and certain layout things that we do. Adding more of them is tough because if we had more, there's a greater likelihood that JP would find more of what he's looking for. But then the more we have, the less likely that JP would actually troll through all of them and find what he's looking for. So the solution to that is we're happy to help you guys. You guys know what your program is and what it's looking to have people track. You can make time with us and we'll help you get started. We're of the teach a man to fish sort of school of thought. We won't do the whole thing, but we'll let you know how to basically, get what you want in terms of your own worksheet template that just does what you need. So use the other ones, the ones that in the resource packages as that starting point, and let us know if you need any help crafting those perfect templates. generally speaking, those are one and done in that once you have them, you're set. So it's a one-time operation and we'll help you through it and get you on the right track if you need it. Thanks for weighing in, JP. Now, and I want to pivot now to let's talk about CoachAccountable as a CRM. In many ways, CoachAccountable is an accidental CRM because customer relationship manager. Yeah, CoachAccountable is helping you manage an awful lot of customer relationship aspects. But CRM is a term of art in software and a very saturated, space of like many different solutions doing many different things that are all kind of different slants of the same thing. But I'm sympathetic to, and I get that a lot of people are, like, well, couldn't CoachAccountable be that too? JR asks, it would be great to have the ability to use CA as a light CRM that would allow putting in basic prospective client details and track conversations and appointments with them without opening up all the tools to them. At the current pricing structure, it is cost prohibitive to use the system to keep up a large number of prospects, but it would be great to have them in there and make moving them to active clients if and when the opportunity allows. I agree, it would be great. Hold on a sec. If and when the opportunity allows. So I'll say more about that. Let's look at another one. I would love to know more about how the software can support client prospect stage. I have seen the blog post on this. I get it, but I would love to understand that this part of the system better and for it to be expanded in 2021. The blog post being referenced by KA here is the one about why prospective clients are full-fledged clients, and that's a good thing. I won't go into all of it. It's a worthwhile read, but it goes on to say, like, people who book with you as into your offerings do have full reign of the system and all that functionality available. And the reason that's a good thing is above and beyond generic scheduling, which is just cool. You're in my calendar. Maybe it'll be auto added to your appointment or to your calendar via that ICS attachment file. We'll talk to you then. You can give them more of a taste of what it's going to be like looking for you. You can have a course that's dripping certain materials in anticipation of your conversation with them. You can give them a little sense for how you work and how you operate in terms of tracking things and making games worth playing and having a repository of knowledge, all that stuff. So that's a very powerful way to differentiate you in ways that a commodity plain booking software just doesn't do. So that's what that blog post is. Anyway, Kay continues to say, after all, it's key to healthy business for both of us. True. I do feel it is a little cost prohibitive to use CA for a CRM solution, and that is a shame because it would be so powerful to have a full customer lifecycle supported in one solution. One way to remove the constraint might be to have a cap with the total monthly subscription cost, or to have a prospect client type with limited functionality. Much more elegant than playing games with the active, inactive client settings each month, which also just doesn't feel right. Let's see here. Before I go into that, I'll speak to a couple things here. I get it. So there's a very natural desire to have CoachAccountable do all the things. And as much as I will continue to grow CoachAccountable to be that answer so that you can cancel certain things, I have to prioritize, and I will always generally prioritize something that is unique to coaching, that can elevate coaching itself, rather than be a Me Too product that just happens to replace what other systems can do so that you can use one less system. I get the appeal, but there's diminishing returns in terms of what I can do to sort of make CoachAccountable be better at things that it's not fully trying to be. The cost prohibitive thing, you're right, full-fledged clients, that's not to be for general purpose CRM. That is to give your clients a real taste of what it would be like to look for you. And as we recommend in that blog post, you can deactivate folks if you have that intake call and you decide it's not a fit. And generally speaking, like if you run the numbers and all the math and all the possibilities of what your client count is and how long that happens, it really is a pretty minimal impact on your price. There's a pithy tweet that I think is fun that's going to be controversial, but again, frames this conversation a little bit better. This is one by Naval Ravikant, who's a pretty great thought leader in the space. That's a great podcast interviews. He said back in 2012, don't minimize costs, maximize revenues. Now, yeah, you should probably do both. But the uptake of this is that the real hard numbers-based reality called, you can only cut costs so much. Well, you can increase, there's no limit on how much you can increase revenues. And the philosophy behind what Coach Accountable does with its prospects in terms of folks who book with you and are getting that real taste of what it's like to work with you beyond just a commodity scheduling system is about that. If Coach Accountable, ups your conversion rate, as it were, by a mere 10%, because you're more differentiated, you're not just some person, with a notebook and a telephone, but you actually have a system with tracking results, like so much of the value proposition we've said a lot about in a lot of the other webinars. The amount of damage you might incur by having a higher, by accidentally being bumped up to a higher subscription plan for Coach Accountable with those prospects is negligible compared to what it can do to actually give power to and more attractiveness to actually folks becoming your paying clients. So this is, again, it's a pithy minimalist thing, but it gives you an access to frame. If you don't embrace it fully, at least you can understand where we're coming from with why we do it the way we do. Moreover, I guess the real thing is that, yeah, Coach Accountable is not trying to be a CRM. It's an accidental CRM in many ways, but it's not the full deal. So speaking a little bit more on this, on my Santa Claus list for CA one day would be a sales and marketing module. If I had something that could handle my prospective clients as well as CA handles my actual clients, thanks, I'm complimented. Definitely nice to know that we're nailing it in what we're intending to do. That would be a dream come true. I guess I'm thinking something like a CRM with baked-in emailing system, sales pipeline, etc. Again, that's reinventing an awful lot of wheels, which really detracts from the core of what we're trying to do. But I get the dream of it all. I use a freebie at the moment, Agile CRM, but it's not really geared for coaches. Emphasis mine. Now that I found was an interesting angle into this conversation, not really geared for coaches. And I asked MS, what does geared for coaches mean? That's an interesting thing. No one's ever said that. What would a CRM geared for coaches mean? Because that piques my interest. That actually now is sort of getting back to the sweet spot intention of this whole enterprise. Elevate coaching, make coaching better. So if we can do things that are uniquely useful to coaches, that aren't just a matter of reinventing the wheel so you have one less login by which to manage your business, I'm down. I haven't heard anything yet. Said I'll think about it. So I haven't heard anything. So this is an avenue for the conversation if there's something that can be geared for coaches. But right now, as it stands, CA trying to reinvent the CRM is fundamentally fraught. And to bring this point home, I will recount a conversation that I had with someone who's on the line last week. He said, look, my CRM does so much. Good luck at getting anyone interested in you kind of like dipping your toes into making a lightweight thing, because anyone who's serious about a CRM has a CRM that does all the bells and whistles, because there are entire companies whose entire purpose is a CRM with dozens of programmers. John, you're good, but you're not gonna topple my current CRM with your little like, so you can have one. So the net of this, and I hope you guys kind of understand it, and this doesn't sound too hand-wavy, is I'm really leery of trying to say Coach Accountable is a CRM, even though it has a lot of accidental resemblance to a CRM in terms of what it allows you to do to take care of, track, and manage, and give a great experience to your actual clients. For now, gonna keep with the focus that really creates value for you guys, which is actually making the experience of your actual clients great. Use a CRM elsewhere. In fact, if you don't even value what Coach Accountable brings in terms of like setting those prospective client calls and by way of offerings, use a commodity scheduler. They're cheaper. I get it. And just have it be a matter of appointment scheduling and nothing else. And that's okay. And then move them into Coach Accountable when the time is right. Some folks, this is again an adjacent topic, some folks have asked after, do you integrate with other CRMs? And I say, sure, we can. You can set up a zap where if someone gets to this status in your CRM, just pipe them over as a client. But adding a client in that regard is a mere matter of typing in their name and email anyway. And most folks don't need too much automation in that regard. So they really are separate and orthogonal concepts. Your CRM for maintaining your sales pipeline, and Coach Accountable for taking awesome care of them when they're ready to go. We bleed into them, but I'm just not sold at this time on trying to go down what could be a big rabbit hole of making Coach Accountable a wannabe CRM, because to RG's point, it could end very poorly, because anyone who's serious about a CRM, they have their own. Don't worry, John, they're not going to want yours. I take some offense. but not enough to have my pride to take me down perhaps a years long path of trying to reinvent that wheel. So that's that. Any questions on the CRM conversation? We can table it for the end too. All right. There's a different angle that's interesting in terms of like big new initiatives for CoachAccountable. My hope is to build a practice to serve larger employees. Can we think of a way to build a dashboard so that individual coach and the head coach of the practice can quickly see where people are in their progress and see that this person hasn't had a call in 2 weeks? That's from DB. Yeah, well, let's talk about dashboards, because unlike CRMs, I'm actually kind of dashboard building, creating curious. CoachAccountable doesn't have a traditional dashboard in the very appy contemporary way of doing it that's come into very vogue. And the reason behind that is because from really day one, I've considered the client listing itself sort of its own de facto dashboard. If you use those sort options like sorting by next appointment, or you can even sort by engagement when there's engagements in there, or last login and activity, you can get what I consider to be one of the most paramount at a glance views of when you're running a coaching practice, working with folks. You can see who you need to talk to soon. You can see who's active and who's not. You can see who's got some stuff coming up. And then the real meat of that is like you focus in on one coach or one coachee, one client, because that's who you're going to be working with next. Like that gives you so much of what I consider the dashboardy goodness of a dashboard. So I've never really invested much time or thought or energy into it. But every now and then I do get that request for a dashboard. Now, unfortunately, most of those requests are, hey, can there be a CoachAccountable dashboard? I say, possibly. What would be useful? What kind of details would you like if you mock it up? I would love to hear it. And I get nothing back most often. And one time I got, in response to the mock-up, a link to a website that showed a lot of typical dashboards that had nothing to do with coaching or CoachAccountable. They were just one of those sort of like lorem ipsum designer placeholder text sort of like chic designs, probably from a dashboarding framework of CSS or scripting library, graph generation, whatnot. Yeah, I know what a dashboard looks like. What would be useful though? That's what I'm really curious about. And so everyone here on the line and everyone who's watching, like let's talk about it. I propose a contest. I propose a contest. If you find yourself in that camp where you think that it would be cool to have a CoachAccountable dashboard, that at a glance groovy look at what's important to you in your business, well, I want to know. Give me some mock-ups. And the winner of this contest, the prize for this contest is, well, you get what you want. Like, I'll build it. Like, if you can make a case that this would be a good dashboard and actually really surfaces some nice things, cool. I'm sorry, not sorry. There's no money involved because I don't want anyone chasing that prize. I want them the prize of like, I need this because this will be useful. The other part of the prize is you get public accolades. Optional. If you want to be anonymous, that's cool, but I will happily tout your praise. If you give me and frankly feed me as not like a designer for hire that I'm paying peanuts, but as an invested client who would say like, look, make it do this, that'd be great. Then we can really talk. So when it comes to the winning submissions, there are 4 sort of defining traits that I'm looking for in this mock-up of a dashboard. One, something that is concrete, and by that I mean specific. Like, I'd like to see a mock-up. It can be on a napkin. It doesn't have to be pretty. But like, what information would it say? If someone says, well, all my upcoming appointments here, that's too vague. Because I would just say, yeah, that's what the appointments tab is for. Like, I would need to know what makes it a succinct and tight view of the data that is not available elsewhere in app, but it actually constitutes a nice little at-a-glance dashboardy goodness. Second, insightful. I want to know, and by all means, you can augment whatever back of napkin scratch of like with some. Here's why. Here's what this makes possible. Here's why this is a win. It allows me to quickly suss out this or focus on that. Give me a clear win and a clear why. That'll help. Resonant. Whatever you propose as a dashboard sort of module or bit or piece, like, should hopefully be not too specific to your business, but instead more commonly useful and resonate with what a lot of coaches are probably dealing with and wish they could see at a glance. And then finally, I shouldn't have to say this, but I'll just throw it in there for completeness sake. It has to be based on what CA knows or can compute. CoachAccountable has the data that it has in terms of what your clients are doing and working with and focusing on. And we can do fun statistical stuff with that. There's a client activity report on the reports tab that most everyone here has not looked at, I can tell. Most folks haven't discovered it, but it's kind of a cool thing to see, like, who's got the most stats and what percentage completion on time and late and all that. Like, there's fun things we can compute, and that can be great for a dashboard and a visual graphical, time chart series, whatever. Like, make sure it's best on what CoachAccountable knows. So all four of these things, if it's concrete, insightful, and resonant, and based on what CA knows, I could say that. And as you guys know, I'm no dashboard expert, but I do understand. Some guy sent me some mock-ups one time that dashboards have multiple little pieces, right? And they're like jigsaw pieces. Like, so you don't have to design the entire dashboard, but even if you suggest certain, like, I wish there was one of the dashboard widgets was a graph that showed this, or a summary that showed that. That's all useful. In other words, for winning submissions, partial credit counts. So that's it. That's the contest. Open enrollment. There's no deadline in this, but I'd love to hear if people genuinely want a dashboard, and that's backed up by, it'd be really cool if I could see this. Tell me what this is. You got my ears and eyes. I'd be happy to have a groovy new CoachAccountable launching, dashboard launching in the next couple of months. So speak up and chime up. Love to see your submissions. All right. Let's see. Here's moving on with the town hall and incoming emails. Here's one that was not from a CA customer that got sent to me 10 days ago. Sales management team at CoachAccountable. Oh, you very endearing right from the get-go. They get me. We are a private equity investor with a focus on software and software, blah, 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 extensive, blah, 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 solid financial partner to provide the necessary capital to accelerate growth, fund acquisitions, or even plan an exit strategy. And of course, it says reach out, blah, blah, blah. Who wants an exit strategy? I'm having fun, man. So I just want to say, like, yeah, these things keep flying my way, and I'm good. I'm having fun. There's another one that I got yesterday, 2 days ago. What you've built with CoachAccountable is impressive. I'm part of a team of CEOs that is acquiring tutoring software companies, and we're focused on I presume CoachAccountable, or maybe Colorado. It's weird to have a geo for software, but whatever. CoachAccountable looks to us like a market leader, so we'd like to have a brief introductory call. Want to have a 15-minute intro chat to explore fit. No. So I hope you guys don't mind. There are parties who would love to infuse capital in this Mo and make it whatever. But I'm sorry, not sorry. This benevolent dictator is happy to stay on and keep doing my thing and not try to juice the numbers, but actually be of service to you guys, which is why I love these sorts of conversations. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Speaking of fun, yeah, I get notes like this every now and then. I love your service. Thanks for everything you do. 2 of my former clients loved it so much as a client, and I use it with their clients. And your customer service is phenomenal. XOXO MR. Thanks. It's nice to know. It's always music to my ears to hear that the customer support team is great. I think so too. So, looping back to what I said a little earlier, reach out. We're here to help. All that sort of thing goes a long way. The human touch. And in that spirit of fun, let's talk about CA Holiday Gift Exchange. Now, don't worry. I didn't get you guys anything either, so don't feel bad if you didn't get me anything. We're good. But as a little bit of fun, I want to posit to you truly what I consider to be a gift. So a little deal for you guys for the rest of the month. If you share an idea, an observation, a question, I'm all about that, as you can tell from the whole structure of this whole thing. If you do that, if that results in some change in CoachAccountable, like we've seen a number of examples of that, earlier, of things that came in response to my call for commentary, where I'm like, what, that's a good idea. Let me just. If it's something that sparks some inspiration, like, yeah, I should change CoachAccountable ever so slightly. Even if it's like hey, Larson, there's a typo on the thing with the spell it right. I'm like, oh yeah, if I make a change in CoachAccountable and push some code to CoachAccountable, well, with my heartfelt thanks, I will be happy to give you a $20 gift certificate card, which is just a fun little Photoshop thing, but basically a $20 credit on your account. This is not too big a deal, but I just want to, again, put on your radar what a gift it is when you guys speak up to let known what would be useful. If you remember the miscellaneous slide with all that stuff, there's a ton of bits of polish that got added this year, and I'm happy to continue doing that. And so your feedback has been and continues to be an invaluable part of that. So thanks everyone for speaking up. CoachAccountable is better for it. We say that a lot. I've considered making that a little macro thing to type shorthand, but I don't bother. But it really is well-trodden beat on my keyboard that when you guys speak up, CA is better for it, and I thank you for it. So let's have a little game. That's a gift, giveaway, and happy to give back, and thanks and appreciation for that. Hopefully, more than the money, the experience of being heard and having what you have to say acted upon is too a gift. So that's our pleasure. It's win-win. It's a good time. So yeah, that's 2020, and looking ahead, I'm proud to report, as usual, we still have plenty more up our sleeve feature-wise. This is not laziness where I'm sort of like taking to the CRM thing with trepidation. It's because trust me, there's better things that I can focus on to create more wins. So we'll continue rocking on with that. There's some great webinar topics that we have for 2021 slated, but if you guys have any in mind that you would really like to cover, there's still a few open slots. And so again, it's always useful to sort of be in tune, in touch with the pulse of what the community would find useful and valuable and frankly interesting. God, if I know it used to be interesting. And then, yeah, overall, as I've said several times before, we're still having a lot of fun, and we hope you are too. And there you have it. That's our year in review. The town hall is not over, but my official slides portion of it is. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great 2021. I now want to open up the table for whatever else is on anyone's mind.
I have a question.
Hey, Robert.
This is Robert. Hey, going back to the thing that you addressed earlier about having some kind of a template to help our clients get more engaged with the system and doing our own Loom videos. I'm wondering if you guys have some kind of an outline that we can leverage to produce our own Loom videos to follow a certain number of steps to help us through that process.
Maybe the best answer to what you're asking for is for us to do one of like the prototypical one. And then you can at least watch it. Here's how we would do it for our thing. And then you can kind of, we'll give you the script for that so you can kind of.
Yeah, I totally understand that there's so many features and functions. The way I run it may not be the way somebody else runs it. But I do think maybe, I might be mistaken, that there are some general features that no matter what we turn on and turn off, a client could benefit from watching a video about how to leverage some of the most basic aspects of CoachAccountable.
Right on.
Does that make sense?
Challenge accepted. We'll cook one up and have that be a published thing. Maybe a template video is the best thing.
I'll be your first to test it. Okay.
Nice. Very good. Yeah. John Karras, what's up?
Hey there, John. Good to see you all. And something I just learned today from a very prompt and comprehensive response to a query that I put in early this morning. Thank you so much again, Jacqueline, for responding so promptly. I just learned that when a client creates an appointment, I'm the one that gets the confirmation that the appointment has been made, rather than they getting the confirmation. If I understand correctly, the only way that the client gets a confirmation is if I book the appointment for them. But if they book the appointment for themselves, I get the confirmation, they don't. I wish it was possible, if that's true, I wish it were possible for the client to be able to get a confirmation as well. We know that we can trust CoachAccountable, that it's a resilient, reliable, robust system. But our clients don't know that, and independent of whether they know that it's CoachAccountable or not, it's just the idea that if you initiate something, that you want to know that what you did actually took place and stuck. And getting that confirmation email is, I booked an appointment, there it is, the confirmation, I know it's in there. Of course, calendar syncing, fills part of that gap, but they still have to look at their calendar to see that it's there. It's sort of that, it's the closing the feedback loop for the client to be able to know that what they want to have happen has actually happened.
So I'm gonna give you a little pushback, but I'm not committed to this. A lot of calendaring systems, you book it and then you redirect it to another thing and you're done, right? And there's nothing to see that shows that you did it. So that confirmation email is more valuable in a more commodity calendaring system. In CoachAccountable, you are logged in. You are looking at your appointments tab. You can't not be. it's there in the listing. It magically appears. It even has a little flash of like, this is new. And so to your, can you see that something happened? I say you can in CA that you can't in most schedulers. So that's
Okay.
why I'm a little reticent, because again, tastes, I think I put in the terms of awesome. There's a little digression. I promise I'll move back fast. I put in the terms of awesome. When you send us Coach Accountable support email, we do not send you an auto bounce thing like your thing has been received and is very important to us, because I think it's insulting to my intelligence. And so in a similar fashion, that I have that sort of same distaste for that kind of spoon feeding redundancy that a confirmation email for the person who scheduled themselves would get. I would view something like that personally as I scheduled it. You don't need to do that. And especially if it's like, it's already synced with my calendar and I can already sync in an app. Like there's 2 or 3 strikes against it from my sensibilities. Like I said, I'm not too hard on this. I mean, if people say this, no, John, you got it wrong. You may think that way. Please add at least a feature where we can check it on called send confirmations to people who schedule.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a scenario like this, John. Something like this: the client is in their account. They schedule the appointment. They see that it's there. They shut down and they run off and go into the rest of their day. Later on the day, they go, "When did I schedule that appointment for? Or did I schedule that appointment?" They can, without having to log into their account, they can just look in their email and see, oh, there it is. Oh, and that's when it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's another thing on their to-do list that they, a way of being able to confirm what happened in the past without having to actually go into the account again to find out.
I guess what I'm smart against is inbox fatigue too. I mean, in many ways, we have a blog post article on this on not overwhelming your clients. It's the importance of not sending too many notifications and reminders. So
Sure.
your request is going upstream on that, and upstream of that idea is okay, so long as the value of it creates the value that's above and beyond like the casualty called people's inbox are being bombarded with what can be viewed as redundant people. Because again, if we put out a feature like this, if we have like X percentage of people who are like, this is nice, and Y percentage who are like, this is annoying. If Y is greater than X, I'm pissed. if it's markedly less or 0, okay, I mean, right. It's sort of a test.
Well, if we had the option to, select it or deselect it, we could listen to our client feedback telling us, I don't need those confirmations, or I'm getting too many emails. Which of these too many emails are you talking about? It gives us something else to talk about in terms of our relationship, and allow us to be responsive to our client needs.
But
and it doesn't have to be default. It can be something the coach can select.
Of course. So Karsten brings up a big point, which is another thing. Can't we just use the reminder functionality for this? Which is, again, if we do recommend that you set reminders, and that also sort of takes the place, making a at schedule time potentially redundant. When it comes to, here's a philosophical thing again of like the bigger pictures of designing a software platform, is an essay by the people behind Basecamp, 37 Signals, long ago. I think it was from their first book, Getting Real, the Smarter, Faster Way to Build Web Apps. They say having lots of switches and dials and settings is actually kind of a cop-out as an application designer. Ostensibly, you're being a great application designer, like you could have it any way you want. But in many ways, your users are trusting you as the application creator to suss out, well, what should these settings be set like, so that you don't bombard them with the paradox of choice, but instead have sensible, well-researched defaults that are not even set, not even defaults. They're just, this is how it works. And in that logic as well, like, and to say nothing of managing complexity and minimizing overwhelm in terms of all the dials that it can do. I push back against the blithe answer called, we'll just make it a setting and let us choose, because that also is not free. And it's not just a complexity for me as developer and us to support it, but it's for every other user has to wade through one more setting. And the one more setting thing iterated 100 times makes an unusable bit of bloat that is beloved by no one, trying to be all things to all things people. So I'm still not sold. There's a lot of ins and outs. As you can see, it's not quite as simple as just have it do it or make it a switch. But that's the point of a spirited conversation, yeah?
Yeah. Well, thanks for hearing that out. Maybe there are other Coach Accountable clients, customers, who would be interested in having this. If not, then let's do some research and find out whether there's a demand for it or not.
Yeah, forum like this is a perfect place for it.
Thanks for hearing me out, John.
Yeah, you bet. Neil G asked a good question. What happens when the coach has the setting to approve all appointments? Do we send the email or don't we? Because that's actually that's a nice little bit of subtlety. Because if you as a coach say all these need to be approved by me when the client schedules, the act of approving sends the email called "This is approved" and now on your thing. Again, my default thought process is we don't ever need to send an email to someone telling them they just did the thing that they were there for doing.
John, this is Sue. I don't know if it's appropriate to kind of bring up a different thing. The one thing I would say about just to finish what you were saying is that in using that, you could also say that once a person's paid an invoice, they don't need an invoice to say they've just paid because they know they've just paid. And sometimes when people are setting the appointment, I know there are some people who like to know, oh, that did work. I've set my appointment. Kind of like when I set the appointment with my doctor online, I know I've set it, but then I get the confirmation that says, here's the confirmation of your appointment. So I can see why that would be useful. And then I was just going to go on to say that I think that the challenge I have, and I hear that kind of a little bit with some of the questions today, is that with regard to the software, for example, you can do memberships. You can use the software, the offerings to do memberships, but then the software is a little bit challenging then to develop, to deliver the rest of a membership experience, if that makes sense. So if you have like a membership kind of platform, you are moving people through different experiences. And I think this is where the kind of the CRM comes in. And this is kind of what I come up against where my business model comes up against CoachAccountable. What I'm really mindful of, and which I really respect what you do, is to say this is a coaching platform, because that helps to keep me within, not getting too carried away with what I'm trying to do. Sometimes I can get like, I want this feature and that feature, and yeah, that would be nice, but does that really get you to where, the whole idea of what you were trying to do in the first place? But it is that challenge. That's what I find, is that, okay, then it won't let me do the way I want to do it. So then how do I configure it so that it would actually give the client the experience that I want them to have? And that is the challenge that I kind of find.
Do you have specifics about what kind of experience you're going to have?
Well, for example, with offerings, they're great, but with a team edition, my model is that I have, coaches that can come on and they're going to have themselves available as a consult, maybe as an engagement package, maybe as a workshop. And then, so with offerings, if I have 5 coaches and they've all got 5 offerings, what you end up with, even within collections, is then a very long list. One of the things that I want to offer my people is coming in and setting an appointment with a coach of their choice, but that's kind of challenging. I'm trying to figure out how to do that with offerings. It's kind of challenging to figure out how I would do that, how I'd give them the options of doing that.
Right on. So here's where we can play with moving the line that separates CoachAccountable hosted functionality and your own web properties that are leading people to that CoachAccountable hosted functionality.
Exactly. And from my point, I don't want people on my website. My website is purely a way to get them into CoachAccountable. I want people in CoachAccountable. That's where I want them to stay. So I want everything that they want to do available within CoachAccountable, whether that's booking or buying another product, or booking an appointment, or going to see a coach, or going to a different group. I want them to be able to do all of that in CoachAccountable. But it's difficult to do that, which is where the CRM comes in and moving people through these different experiences. But then you've got the problem of, you're connecting these pieces. And it's a challenge.
Aren't they prospects? People who are like wading through your 5 different coaches and their 5 different offerings? Are they established clients?
My business model is that I give them like a trial of the whole thing. So they come on and they do an assessment, and part of the trial is a consult with a coach. So in that respect, they are a prospect in that way, but they're still within CoachAccountable.
Yeah, this might go back to that again, fundamental problem of CoachAccountable posing as a CRM is fraught. Your business model just might not be a fit for what we're prepared to do. And this is where I have to I have to temper my own desire to have CA be all things to all people, make everyone happy, because it'll eventually implode on its own weight if I don't have the discipline to say, I wish it could be what you need it to be, but it can't. And that phrase might, that heavy, fatalistic phrase might apply to you today. It might not in a year, but not all models will find themselves a certain fit. And if you're talking about a big, where there's a certain element of choice in terms of your clients picking who they want to work with and all that sort of thing, that might be just a couple of simple static web pages on your own website where they can get a complete bio with a video and get to know my coach, and then surf through those listings, maybe do some sort of do their own navigation to funnel through to eventually where, again, that line gets drawn between your system and CoachAccountable to then, cool, you like this person? Here are the 5 things they offer. And 5 endpoints of that process for 5 different coaches that you can then manage. Yeah, it's not being done in CoachAccountable, but again, that level of specificity of how I want the flow to go is so nuanced that we could imagine about 50 different ones that are all equally valid and popular, and I can't code as first-class features in CoachAccountable all 50.
Sure, that makes sense.
Right on. It's a good bit of perspective because, again, I mean, so much of what CoachAccountable does in its growth is pushing up against that barrier as smartly as I can manage to, it doesn't do this, but if we just made it a little further, it could be that thing for someone. So I appreciate you weighing in with that bit of perspective, because again, it informs the overall direction that CoachAccountable could be more valuable and beneficial to more people.
Hey, John, what if the ask were not a giant CRM with any coding, but just simply a different status for prospects, and how we get them there, is one way or another. And then we can use some of the functionality for CA for prospects that would be more limited, but then we wouldn't be paying for a full seat. And then we could do 2 things. One is we could have a lot higher conversion rate, because once they get in CA, all of my clients love it. And so I could use it more as a sales tool, because they wouldn't just be looking at it or watching me take them through it. They'd be in it, and then they would convert more often. And then number 2 is as I go from, program to program, I'm a career coach. And so as I go from one part of the career to another, it would be great to move them off of a program, put them into prospect status for another program. Nothing would need to change except for status. And then I wouldn't be worried about, activating, deactivating as I get closer to my 30 clients. And it's like, oh, that's going to trigger, more money on my part. Is it worth it? Do I leave it there? I've triggered it already. How many do I have now? It's just a status format that I would ask for, not a functionality.
Well, it's not just a status thing, because when you're talking about a status with limited functionality, there is to draw a line between what they can and can't do when they're prospect and not taking up a seat versus a full active client and taking up a seat. And if we're going into that line, I assert the line's already drawn. You can make someone inactive and yet still give them full access to their account, which means there's no functionality, but they can review all their stuff. That was a hugely powerful thing that we added this year, that allows people to sort of still hang on and be a part of your system and review their stuff, but they can't interact with it. It's a look but you can't touch kind of thing. That's there as of 5 minutes ago. And that might be what you need. Now, there might be a little bit of bookkeeping to, separate out the inactive tab and split it out into more functional designations. But the guts of what you're talking about is there, unless you want to say, well, we need to draw a different dividing line between what they can and can't do if they're this nuanced thing. And I don't know what else they should need to do if they're not an active client.
John,
yeah, Lolly.
I sorry to jump in, but what Tyler was saying, I have a number of times where, and maybe it's I have it set up wrong, but I have a lot of people who schedule an initial consultation call with me who don't set up a full profile. Because when I go in, I notice that it still says resend invite. And I think a lot of people, for privacy concerns, they don't know me, they don't know. So I think maybe they're reluctant to put too much information or set up yet another account that they may never use. And so I see I would say probably half of my prospect inquiries don't actually set up a profile. So when I go in and deactivate them, they don't have the ability to access anything.
Right on.
And so I've had a couple of times where my ADHD clients, it's 2 or 3 months later, they're finally getting back to that thing that they fully intended to do as soon as we got off Zoom. And they've emailed me and said, like, basically, like, do you not want to work with me? Because I can't get in to schedule another appointment with you. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't heard from you, so I deactivated you. And so that's where, and I had been exchanging a little bit in the chat, but that's where I feel like having some kind of, or even if they could still have access to their file, I don't know. Anyway, that's what I've bumped up against.
Yeah. Hey, John, this is Sharombo. If I can touch on this also. Yeah, because this is also a bit of my experience. I wanted to use this also for my initial consults. But what I experience is that people are expecting an initial consult. They don't expect to get access to a whole accounting coaching system. So it might even be a little bit intimidating because the trust is not yet there, right? They're still in the discovery phase. Like, do I really want to work with them? And then I invite them to have a consultation. And then all of a sudden they get an email like, hey, now you got access to my amazing system. It might be moving a little bit too small. So that's why I use a booking system for the initial calls. And when then I send my offer, and then when they accept my offer, then they'll get the login. But I agree that I would love to be able to use the booking functionality and maybe one worksheet for the pre-intake. And then have it set to a status like prospect, like Tyler said, like prospect, booking, sheet, done, right? That would be a little less intimidating, I think.
Well, what I'm hearing what all you guys are saying is that there's truly, it's not like a strict binary distinction between prospect who's just dipping their toes and full-fledged client. There are shades of gray between there, which again brings me to my earlier point of like, where do we draw the line between what is a fully active client and what is not? And when we go past what we already have called just deactivate them and maybe even give them like giving them full access to log in and see stuff after they're inactive was a shifting of that line. And that's cool. Like, I'm happy to give you guys more in that way. But so much of these gray areas is really sort of begging the question of like, well, can we shift the line even further? Can we shift the line even further and have more people be able to do more things without counting as a seat towards our subscription plan? And I'm sympathetic to, there is sort of a little no man's land in the middle there. But for now, a lot of the solution is kind of what you just said, Sho, where you use a different platform that's a general purpose schedule that doesn't have all these things. Because if it's not appropriate, cool. I stand by the distinction called, as a scheduler for getting people into your platform, the value proposition of CoachAccountable, distinct from all those other commodity schedulers, is that they can get a real taste of your system and your style and your practice, and even get some little interactivity of working in it beforehand. If you guys are saying you don't need those things, that's what other schedulers are for. And I get the delight and deluxe in like, well, I'd love to drop my other scheduler and not use it at all. So can we move the line just a little bit?
Yeah, I totally get you, John. It's just that to me, it feels like a workaround to use another booking software, because it's pretty common practice, I think, to invite somebody for a discovery call or initial consultation. Then I'll send them a quick pre-consultation worksheet, but I do this outside of CoachAccountable. So if in a perfect world it would be possible, all I would need is a very limited functionality, like the bottom, like you have the offering, put your name, email, schedule your call, and then they receive a worksheet. That would be all that I would need. And then maybe be able to have a status. That's it. That would be the thing that I would love. And now I'm doing this outside CoachAccountable, but yeah, it feels like a workaround now.
It is a workaround to have CoachAccountable sort of be everything when it's not meant to be everything. That's kind of the fundamental thing. This also echoes into, you know, it being a CRM, not a CRM, sort of a CRM. I have to use it up CRM curve.
Yeah.
But I will say that I opt, because I have Acuity, I use it just for like business type appointments. And you can do, you know, I used to have, before CoachAccountable, a worksheet and everything. And I thought, well, like you're saying, I could just like print out that form from Acuity when they convert and put it in their files, you know, and create some work for me. But I consistently, even on inquiry calls, I will honestly say their experience, as soon as they schedule an appointment and they've done the worksheet in CoachAccountable, they've gotten the reminder and all of that, I get consistently in inquiry Zooms and calls that they liked that experience. I didn't miss my appointment today because I got my reminder and I went in and I finished my worksheet. They like that, they say that. And I definitely feel that CoachAccountable has increased my conversion from those first calls. So I'll continue to activate and deactivate client, you know, because I feel like CoachAccountable, their initial experience and contact with me is in that space where they're eventually going to be working and they like it. So that's why I push that. An easier way to manage that would be great. But I'm going to stay with having them in CoachAccountable from the start, and I'll continue to do the admin because I feel like it's a benefit overall in terms of them feeling like, oh, there's this space that's really easy to use. And this is where I'm going to be able to collaborate. So
I'm going to chime in too here. I agree with Lolly and also with, I'm going to kill your name, I think, but Sharumbo? Was that close?
That's correct. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Sure, sure.
You know, in one world, you know, doing it the way that Lolly's doing it, the way that I'm actually doing it too, is it almost pre-qualifies if you have somebody who's really serious or not. They're going to take those extra steps to sign in. I also use Acuity for things outside of coaching, and I wouldn't necessarily want to use Acuity for the initial call because now that initial worksheet is not in their system. I have to upload it to their system. On the other hand, I would like to be able to put more prospects into CA, but then it would really bump up the subscription costs. So I'm not sure what the balance is, but I can see both arguments really, really clearly. But again, I use it as a means of, you know, if people don't want to register and go through that initial worksheet, well, maybe they're just not that serious.
Yeah, a lot of perspectives. As you guys can see, it's a nuanced conversation of where we draw the line, because I know the ideal for you guys would be, well, prospects can do everything, have that luxurious experience of what it's like to work with me, and I don't get billed for them. And then it's like everyone's on starter plan and CoachAccountable goes under. I
guess the bottom line, John, is what I'm hearing from everyone. We really value the experience that CoachAccountable allows us to provide these clients. And we just want to introduce them to it as quickly as possible, I guess. So that's not a bad thing, right?
It's what I'm going for, but yeah,
you're achieving that goal.
As we've seen from everyone's comments taken together, it forms this rich tapestry of, it bleeds into full-blown CRM or full-blown general purpose scheduling system. And yeah, we're close. A lot of the features are there, but the lines are drawn the way that they're drawn with a certain intentionality. And I get that it can be a bummer that it can't be all those things just for everyone, for all the people without impacting the price.
And I would propose this, that the way to simplify it is to have a status which is inactive plus one course. And that course, our onboarding course.
You're changing the line again.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but that's the line. It's super simple because that course can be different.
If we do that, Tyler, I will get requests for drawing the line a little further. I promise.
No, I think it's just, you get to schedule your first inquiry and, not even a course,
Right.
just the worksheet, the appointment. And then, like you said, then there's that qualifying. If I have to then resend them an invite as part of my consult follow-up, if they don't set up the account, then I know it's not really a prospect and I feel comfortable deactivating them. If they set up the account, I know I should keep following up with them. I think if we could just have that simple space, but if we don't, it's not a deal breaker for me. but just to have that, schedule your inquiry, get your confirmation, fill out your worksheet would be great. And
Until
maybe,
it's not. Yeah,
John, would there be an ability to, I guess my idea was, if they didn't set up their profile fully, they just scheduled that first appointment, they filled out the worksheet. If I deactivated them, if they came to schedule an appointment, could there be something that would trigger a reactivation of their profile?
I think that's already a thing, actually. Although I could, so this is deep in the internals of CoachAccountable's code and something I can change because it was sort of an arbitrary decision. When someone books an appointment, or excuse me, purchases or signs up for an offering with or without an appointment, if the system detects that there's a match on email address, it will reactivate that client if they're inactive. If they've never registered, and this is what I might change, it'll create a new client profile. And so what you might be asking after, Lolly, is like, if they've never registered, just tack on the new thing and reactivate. And then they still have to register. And that might be a nice way to, at least, a very elegant way, put what you're talking about. Because
because I've gotten 2 emails from people where they came back to the platform to schedule that. Because what I do is, after the inquiry, I assign a worksheet, the discovery worksheet, some informational sheets. And then when I deactivate them, it pulls all that out. And they came to they got that email. 2 months later, they tried to use it and they said, yep, all that stuff's gone. You can't do anything. So if they could just somehow revisit with that email address, the system said, oh, you're back. We'll reactivate you.
Well, yeah, that's already there. So if someone has registered their account in the past, they're inactive now, and then they purchase another offering under the same email address.
Right. What I'm saying is, if they haven't fully registered.
Sure. And that's a change that I could make in 10 minutes. So
that to me would solve, as far as I can see right now, that would solve the whole problem. I deactivate Sam, he comes back 3 months later, and it automatically reactivates his account. It eliminates that problem for me. I can comfortably then go in and deactivate everybody on the 4th before my billing day. It's
a lot of ins and outs. Thanks everyone for weighing in. And especially you, Lolly, thanks for what you said, because you're someone who's not us at the Coach Accountable team telling the story of what we're truly going for. It's cool-ish if we can save you 15, 20 bucks a month on your Acuity or your calendar or what else. It's even cooler, way cooler, if we can give you a scheduling experience that helps you convert more. And that's where I've landed on. That's the current state of Coach Accountable. And I will bear the slings and arrows of having to apologize for maybe for your process. We can't save you that extra 15, 20 bucks that Acuity is charging you. That's the best we got today.
The bottom line is that I convert way more than 15 or 20 bucks having them in Coach Accountable. So it's really more just a matter of time and effort, I guess. But 15 or 20 bucks buys me a good bottle of wine after a long day of coaching. And I'll make sure to toast the Coach Accountable team when I'm done.
Honored. Yeah, I mean, that really loops back into reinvent the wheel or do things that make coaching itself materially better. I want to do this all day long. This is okay. But if I have insights to do that one, that's what's gonna help the overall mission. Like let's make coaching mainstream. Let's make your guys' businesses thrive. all that. I can't make your business thrive by saving you 20 bucks a month. Not even close. To Naval's tweet, don't minimize costs, maximize revenues. I cannot make your business thrive if I'm just saving you 20 bucks.
I think the issue here largely too to consider is that it's not just about a reduction in costs or not having to use an external calendaring system. It's that we're having our prospects actually begin to have the experience of the context within which our coaching is delivered. The earlier they get the experience of being within the CoachAccountable environment, they're already on their learning curve of experiencing what the place is where we're going to actually be working.
Yeah, and complementary to that idea, it's differentiating. Like, wow, there's an experience here. It's not just I show up for my calls, I get whatever I get, and we talk next month. There's a process. This is results-based. That's what gets me excited.
Yeah. And if I can make a comment, I'm a new coach that.
One sec, Robin. Ryan was talking. 1 sec.
Yeah, I was just wanting to weigh in on this point, which is something I think as coaches we're familiar with. And the point is, one size does not always fit all. And while it is a differentiator that someone is coming in and they get that first experience with CoachAccountable. For example, I have a client, he's 70 years old. He's eager, he shows up on time, even before time, but he struggles with the CoachAccountable interface. So the question is, do I dump him as a client? He's very passionate, but at the same time, I think the thing for us to keep in mind as we walk through this, to bring to the forefront of our thinking, is that one size does not always fit all. And so I think that should calibrate the intensity of this ask.
100%, Ryan. That's a great point. I mean, there are some folks who say, like, my clients don't dig it. And I will have the humility to own, like, I get it. It's not for everybody. It's great for some people, but some folks don't like it. It would be extreme to say, like, well, I can't work with you. You're not good with CoachAccountable. There are ways to hedge. They're not necessary. Again, CoachAccountable might not be the platform for you, given the people you serve. But ways to sort of hedge against that are, well, you can set up actions for them. You can set their metrics in motion. You can kind of hold their hand a little more so that they are less active in the system, but can still get the benefit of, those things that help them keep in action, track what's important, and review those nuggets of wisdom. Some of your clients are going to be more active in CoachAccountable. Like the top ends will be like, wow, this guy makes his own metrics because he just likes the accountability system. Awesome. And at the bottom end of the spectrum, like, I don't even want to log in. I can't be bothered. And there's ways for you as coach to be of service and meet people where they're at. Ryan, to put a point on this, again, is that humility. If everyone is like that, and like down here, we tried. CoachAccountable might not be it for you, and we get it. So there's room for all of that.
Absolutely agree.
Thanks for weighing in. Great stuff. I should be saying this at the end of everyone's thing. I appreciate it all. My head's going on with a lot of ins and outs. Robin, you had something on your mind earlier.
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize that I interrupted there. Well, I was just going to say that I'm a new coach, just started my practice this year. And CoachAccountable is such an important part of how I'm actually building my business, and part of, like what you said, the differentiator. I would really love the ability to onboard a prospect who I have given a free, that initial consultation to, even though haven't initially engaged yet, because I'm setting all of my processes right now as a new coach. And so, having that feature would even have me coming back to CoachAccountable a lot more as the user of the platform than I am now.
So I'm clear, which feature are you referring to?
What we were discussing earlier about allowing a particular status for an individual who is not yet purchased, engaged formally through a purchase of a package or whatever.
Right
yeah.
On. Well, I think that's a non-starter to have someone actually be able to get into the system and not count. Then I don't know where to draw the line, right? So I'm not sure what nuance of this conversation, which again, as we've distinguished as many different gray areas, many different places we could draw the line, that would make that. Do you have a sense that you had in your mind that perhaps I missed?
Oh no, I was speaking to what Lolly was talking about, Lolly and the other gentleman. I don't see him on my screen now, but about, we do a free consult, right? It's the discovery phase still. This person is not a client with an engagement yet. but with it, we want to add them in the system. And if for some reason they're not ready yet, we don't hear from them, we have to go back in, we have to deactivate. And then if they come in later on, we're reactive. It's to have them just engaged from onboarded, I guess this might be a better way to say it, from the start, keeps them on my radar. And I'm not having to manage like a whole separate list of folks that I have given who we've already had a consult, and I'm following up with them, but I'm following up with them outside of CoachAccountable in a whole separate activity.
Gotcha. Yeah, this definitely bleeds into general purpose CRM. This definitely bleeds into it begs the question: if someone's truly onboarded in that fashion, well, what distinguishes them from your typical active client? There's again a lot of nuances where it just kind of bleeds into CA maybe not being something that it's not trying to be. So it's tricky, but I get that it's not quite as nice to have to follow up outside of CoachAccountable for certain things. But I think one of the tail ends that again, my conversation with RG last week, if you need a CRM, use a CRM, but it ain't CoachAccountable. That might just be the most elegant, even though it's not like the most ego stroking, like, oh, CoachAccountable does all the things answer that I'd love to be able to give, but I can't. It might just be that when you need a CRM, when you need a general purpose scheduler, that's what you just need to use.
Yeah, I guess I'm not looking to CoachAccountable to do things like campaigns, marketing campaigns, or if I do some kind of like a free workshop out there and attract 20 people and managing those 20 people and continuing to send them marketing material. That's not what I'm talking about. I think that when a person is interested to the point of actually scheduling a consultation, that is significant. That it's
further down the pipeline.
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing.
Exactly.
Here's the dividing line between where CRM starts or stops and where CRM begins. And I say that dividing line is gotten kind of blurry, but it's largely meant to be they're ready to go. They've signed their paying customer. And everything shy of that. Even a prospect call, as we're talking, you guys are sort of putting on my radar a lot of nuance of that little gray area between that border where someone does a prospect, but they're not a paying customer. So maybe CoachAccountable is not where they belong. And maybe they just belong only temporary to do it by the offering, get the quick taste, and then, yeah, you do have to deactivate them before your billing date comes up. I think what you're sort of positing is that the border between CRM and CA should be moved just a little bit to make it so that the prospects who are still not actually customers are fully serviced. And that's, I think, the heart of what we're talking about right now. It's still a little squishy in terms of where that line should be drawn. So thanks again to you and everyone else for putting on my radar more of the nuance, the shades of gray and those things.
John, can I just ask a quick question then? So I guess if I want to, just to clarify, yeah. I offer my prospects the ability, because I deal with people with chronic conditions, and they may want to be active at certain times and not active at others. It's just the nature of where they're at. Sure. So I guess that what I offer my people is that they can pause their membership whenever they want to, or they can re-engage when they want to. That, with the CoachAccountable as it is a very labor-intensive process on my part, unless I'm using a CRM. Is that right? That kind of a moving people in and out would be really tough to do based on the system as it is right now. Because I would have to, there might be some people who haven't set up their account, who when they do go to log in,
how many clients do you have coming in and out of your program?
I'm still setting up the whole system, and potentially, who knows? But I mean, even with a team edition, if I just answer that by saying with a team edition, if I have 5 coaches, they've each got 5 clients, that's 25 people.
How many times a month? How many of those are coming in and out per month?
That's a good question. I won't know that until I'm launched, but I'm trying to set the system up so that I can actually manage how that works.
As a programmer.
So from my client's point of view, so what I've done is I'm taking my clients through the experience. If I sign up here, then what happens and what's my experience? How does it feel if I'm the client signing up? you know, and what's my experience with it? And there are certain sticking points that I'm finding that are difficult. So as I test the system, so for example, when I set up a test person and the cat wasn't activated, and it came back with your account isn't currently active. Well, right now that's a black hole they're going to fall into, because there isn't a way for them to say, if you want to reactivate, here's your magic button, for example.
That's an interesting feature. Actually, I mean, the system definitely, I mean, the login to CoachAccountable will tell someone your client is not active. Now,
Right.
That's a setting that I could see making as a matter of choices about your business model. Will you allow clients to reactivate themselves? Or if they try to log in and get told your account is inactive, what should we do? We could have a button that says, go purchase the thing that takes them to an offerings collection page. Like that could be a groovy thing where it's like that's a nice feature called alternate behaviors for clients logging in who are now inactive, so that they can self-reactivate. I dig it.
That would be awesome.
Wow.
I actually broke that on my little thing here, magic button. And just very quickly, while we're talking about these magic links, there might be links. I noticed that there are a whole bunch of links that you attach, magic links in different, you can automatically insert them in emails and things like that. Is there such a thing as a list of these magic links? Because I might want to include a magic link that's not, you're not displaying on that email, for example.
Generally speaking, the ones that are there are the only ones there.
Okay, so you can't.
You can trust that. Now,
okay.
There's a few that are like evergreen, like client first name, client last name.
Right.
Those are mostly all displayed in line though. So don't fret. You're not missing anything. You don't need like a cheat sheet of what magic links are available that you didn't know.
No, it's just that I might want to insert a magic link into a different email that I can't select because it's not available. If that makes sense.
Yeah, all those are specifically coded, and so like they're the in-app shows what clickable things that you can have then.
Okay.
John, I wasn't aware of the add to calendar button magic link until I just saw it earlier this evening. And I was actually going to ask you, because I'd noticed that you had got some add to calendar icons in your invitation email to this event, and I was going to ask you what tool you had used to put those in. Had that come out of CoachAccountable? Is that what buttons look like?
I coded that in CoachAccountable, and what those buttons each do. One of them is a specially crafted URL that pipes information into a Google event, and the others are largely URLs that generate an ICS file. Again, the concept of an ICS file that if you click that in your browser generally is hooked up to whatever will process an ICS file for that importing. I rolled my own, but it's highly modeled after what other commodity platforms do.
So is that what the buttons look like if we were to insert that magic link into our emails?
Yep, precisely.
I spent about 20 minutes trying to find. I knew I'd come across tools to do that, and I was all set to have yet another recurring subscription.
Right on. Good question, guys. Quite frankly, I need to pee. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves and think about what we should talk about next.
You gotta love such a just it is what it is environment. I got to say, I love these gatherings and seeing everybody and hearing how people are using the platform.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, Peter, thank you for bringing up that the magic link for the, what was it called? The add to calendar. I don't know where is that exactly? Where did you see that magic link appear? Where are you in the process where that link is available?
Morgan?
Yeah, it's in the, John, when you're doing an offering, you've got the offering confirmation email, and there you have the option to put, the tag is appointment add to calendar buttons. And so just like all the other tags, all you have to do is put your cursor in there, click on the tag, so you don't have to make sure you spelled it all right and everything. It'll just insert itself there. And then it puts all those calendar, the one with Outlook, iCal, Google, whatever, all in that thing that you saw.
Great.
Morgan, are you able to do a screen share on that process, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Visually, it's a little bit better.
I'm gathering though, I'm looking at John's confirmation email, it says, P.S. if it would help you to remember, you can add it to your calendar. I'm gathering that P.S. we would need to add ourselves. It just adds the buttons.
Right.
Stupid question. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, I can't share while John's sharing. I do not have the power.
John, get out of the bathroom.
All right, look at the power. All right, Morgan, do it to it.
Yes. So here we are in the confirmation email here. This is the thing. So if I just put my cursor there and click that, and here's where you would say, as you were asking, add this to your calendar with these fancy buttons, or whatever you wanted to say about it. And that's the part that you would write yourself. But yeah, this right here is the buttons.
And this button only works in this email. This magic link is only available in this context. We can't add this magic link anywhere else.
Well, it has to be in the context of where the system can understand where to do it. Let's see here.
I used that just real quickly, and it didn't go to my default calendar. Was that on my end, or is that?
It might be. Basically, that's a link that you're clicking in whatever program you're using. If your web browser is not geared to do your calendar, that's a matter of how your apps are sort of.
Okay, I did it within Outlook.
Set to handle default stuff.
I did it within Outlook, but it threw it to a whole new calendar that was not tied to my default. So I felt like most of the time it will go to your default calendar in Outlook. I'm just curious if I did it wrong or if it's programming. Thanks.
Right on. Yeah, it's a matter of what your web browser knows to do when it's downloading an ICS file. Those usually have default actions associated with it. Like Firefox, for example, will be like, use this program or choose another, and then you choose a different one.
Yeah, and without belaboring the conversation, I think it's a great idea to have a way to transition prospects, warm leads to clients very naturally. I think it's be a huge win without changing the platform at all significantly.
Well, I agree with the first part of the sentence, and I think what we've seen from the conversation in the last 20 minutes, that the second part of the sentence is not a guarantee. What change does need to be made that is actually creates a workable line between what is a client that counts and a client that doesn't. So there's some nuance. As I often do. Thanks for weighing in, Jeff.
John, can I ask another quick question about these magic links very quickly to clarify? One of the things I want to set up as the offering is to set up a notification. So I'm offering people the month-to-month subscription, and just a notice at day 28 that their subscription is renewing. And that would be where it would be useful to have some kind of a different magic link in there than is currently shown in the emails. Because right now, I think in the emails, the only options are about setting appointments. So if I could put in something in there, that would be useful.
From which context are you setting these emails?
Well, so I want to sell to people to say to them, hey, you're about to be charged again for your monthly subscription.
So the system won't send those necessarily anyway. That's
so okay. So I might be trying to do. So I went in and tried to change a system email to accomplish that, and I looked at that and I thought, I don't know that that's really where it's supposed to be. So maybe I'm trying to do something I can't do.
Yeah, there's no functionality for like a timed relative to a scheduled invoice email.
Okay.
You could do it through engagement notifications, though. If they're on an engagement and they're getting, that they're getting one every month, you can then set one to go like that day -1 or, whatever, so that's what it says. And so you could alter the engagement progress notification email, which is the one that will go out at that time. And you can it's got a whole bunch of tags that you can put in that one.
Okay.
Word to the wise, though, Morgan's right, but it is a bit of a hack, and you're going to have to do some arithmetic, and it will not work indefinitely. You need to set one new thing for every month.
Okay.
If it's going to span 5 or 6 months, then you have to set one on day 147, and then 177, and then I hope you don't forget.
Oh, I see.
Hope you get the math right with where the calendar lays over, with days of the month varying and all that. So.
Okay. And then can I just say one quick thing about the metrics, that when I've done the computed values, the values come out at like 2 decimal places. Is there a way of rounding up? Because that's a very specific number to give
It
somebody.
does its best to have the right, a suitable amount of significant figures, but it's not user specifiable. Most
Okay.
maths will, come up with like 10 decimal points because they're very precise. And if it's not even decimal things, then yeah. So it does round, but.
Well, no, it doesn't round because it gives
does
too
round.
many. Well, it's given me too many. I've
It
got
doesn't round to a complete whole number, but not
Right.
necessarily. Again, it does its best to use
Okay.
applying certain logic heuristics, but it rounds from what it would a calculator would tell you with like 12 decimal points.
Right.
It makes it a little more better. It
To
rounds
two,
to
yeah, exactly.
what we call in what I learned in high school chemistry, 3 significant figures.
Right.
Irrespective of how many zeros are falling or trailing, it's going to give you 3 sig figs.
Okay.
Hey,
All right,
John,
thanks,
just a real
John.
quick question. This is Jeff
Yes, sir.
again. Apologize, came in late, so if this has already been addressed, is there any conversation about creating the ability to do recurring action items? So something that would repeat ongoing for like the next month or.
We recommend a binary metric. This is a common thing. You can do a recurring action using a course to drip it at whatever cadence, but action plans with many instances of the exact same thing are boring and dilute the whole point of an action plan. Action plans are meant to be intentional things. A habit, which is what a recurring action usually suggests, something to do on a regular basis, is much better done by a binary metric, i.e. a metric where they can report their number on a routine cadence once a week, Monday through Friday, 7 days a week, whatever you want. And we just kind of hack it to a 1 means yes, you did it. A 0 means no, you didn't. And that creates a sort of little flow chart or like a sort of visual graphic of like someone's, consistency at doing something in a way that, again, a series of recurring actions never do.
Okay.
Good question. It's one of the classics. All right, gang. We've gone way over. I thank you guys all so much for bearing with and staying late and enjoying and making a spirited conversation among the community. I'm stoked for 2021. Thanks as always, you guys, for being on the journey with us. Pleasure to be a service to you, doing our thing.